So you want to draw a realistic eye but don't know how? Well, you should probably watch this video. I provided the reference image in the description if you want to follow along with that, but otherwise let's get started. To begin with, get a light pencil such as a HB pencil and begin drawing the main outlines. It may take a few tries to get the exact shapes you want, but once you have the main outline, you can add smaller outlines to mark where highlights will be in the eye, which is where light is being reflected. I then start shading the first layer of the iris using a light pencil with strokes going from the edge towards the center and from the center outwards. You can also shade in the pupil. You can then go and blend this first layer. I use a blending stump, but if you don't have one, you could use a brush or a tissue. Here I'm just adding some more lines going from the center, and I'm also lightly shading between the highlights in a direction that is radially outward. I then continue to blend this. You can then use a darker pencil to add smaller strokes around the outside of the eye and to shade the pupil. So yeah, you can probably use a B or a 2B for this part. You can also go and blend these areas. Here I add in some darker lines to the middle and outside of the eye. I also lighten up some areas that are too dark. Then you can continue to blend this second darker layer. I then follow the reference image, adding in darker areas where necessary. I also add some darker and thicker lines and dots from the center of the pupil to the center of the iris in accordance with the reference. These shapes kind of start wide, become thin, and then widen again towards the end. Also, make sure that these are not drawn over the highlights as they will be harder to erase. Here I'm just adding in some more detail. I also use an electric eraser to make highlights near the bottom of the iris that I forgot to mark out. And if you don't have one, you could probably just try using a sharp eraser. However, it might not be as effective. I then continue by adding in some even darker details by shading, blending and erasing in a similar way to what I have done previously, by trying to follow the reference. Here I use an even darker pencil to shade the pupil. Then I go and add some more finer details that make up the reflections in the eye. It's important to know where sharp and soft edges are, as well as where to shade from light to dark, as this is what allows the drawing to look realistic. So you can kind of see the lines that are going inwards and outwards, and some of the edges of the highlights are sharp, whereas like the overall shading from the outside to the inside is going from dark to light more gradually. Here I'm just confirming some highlights. I also attempt to fix the overall shape of the iris where I've gone outside of the original outline, which is not recommended because then you have to fix up this mistake. So yeah, try not to do this. Then I continue fixing up the iris until it mostly represents the reference image. Then it's time to move on with the rest of the eye, where I shade around the edges of the eyeball with the first layer and blend this. Here I'm shading below the eye. I also draw in the corner of the eye by outlining where the darker areas will be and shading these with a dark pencil, such as a 6B or 8B pencil, leaving a few lighter areas as shown. Then I shade and blend around the eye with a medium strength pencil. Here I use an even darker pencil to shade where the eyelid begins to fold. Then I make this area under the eye lighter, showing that this surface is on more of a vertical angle. This is because the light source appears to be coming from the top left. I also make the corner of the eye darker. Since the eyeball was a bit dark, I made it more light using a moldable eraser. And here I make the bottom bit of the top eyelid darker to create a more 3D effect. I also add some more highlights to the edge of the eyeball and blend around them. Here I erase this part of the eyelid so I can add some texture to it by drawing lines close together and shading from dark to light in the left direction, leaving a lighter area on the right of each line as shown. Then you can draw some intersecting lines for some more texture. Here I'm just shading and blending above the eyelid, allowing for some more contrast. I then realise that this dark area on the right is too low, so I move it up and to the right a bit by erasing it, They should have been taken care of from the beginning, so my bad. I also draw in the eyelashes. To do this, use a sharp and dark pencil to draw strokes that start heavy on the page and become lighter towards the end of the line. Making them curved in the correct direction as shown is also necessary. Here I'm just blending some more. I also add some more highlights around the edges of the eyeball. You can also add veins to the eyeball, similarly to how you might draw branches on a tree, but applying very little pressure. I then erase around the iris a little bit and also make a few areas darker. I also get a charcoal pencil and scrape off some charcoal to blend around the pupil, allowing it to appear more dark. Here I confirm some highlights with some final touches. Once you're happy with your drawing, you're finished, so congratulations. I hope this video was helpful and I'll see you in the next one.